To Dunedin now, where Brenton Tarrant, the accused, lived for about 2 years ahead of Friday's terror attack. Some of those who had interactions with him describe him as a loner, while others say they had no idea what was obviously brewing inside. Our Otago Southland reporter Timothy Brown has more.
For 2 years, Australian citizen Brenton Tarrant lived a seemingly normal life in Dunedin. It was during that time he allegedly planned and prepared for Friday's massacre. Details about his life have begun to emerge, and across the Tasman, his grandmother told 7 News his overseas travel appeared to be where his hateful ideology began to foment.
It's only since he travelled overseas, I think, that boy has changed completely to the boy we knew.
His family spoke of a young man who didn't spend much time outside.
Spent most of his time on computers and learning the ins and outs of computers and playing games on computers. But I don't think girlfriends were on the agenda. He said getting married was too hard.
He was a qualified personal trainer and worked at a local gym in his hometown of Grafton. All of those characteristics of his earlier life carried over into his time in Dunedin. But in the city they can now be seen in a darker light. It was on computers that it appears his friendships were kept, among the racist underbelly of white supremacists, on the 8chan website. In his last post before carrying out Friday's attack, Brenton Tarrant describes those on the anonymous forum as the best bunch of cobbers a man could ask for. He lived in a quiet residential street in Anderson's Bay. Neighbours say they knew little about his life, but Brandon Kinghorn says it isn't uncommon for people to go under the radar there.
Everyone really keeps to themselves, I think. I mean, I know a few people through work, some that live in Everton Road and some just up from us. But other than that, everyone's sort of, their families or they just sort of keep them to themselves. And I don't think we're not divided at all. We're just not connected,
Most struggled to recall interactions with him or seeing his vehicle, a Subaru Legacy station wagon, which was used in the attacks and bought in August 2017 from a Dunedin dealership. One man who did exchange the odd word with him says he spent a lot of time at the gym. The man, who did not wish to be identified, said he seemed nice enough and polite enough, but kept to himself, and no friends or other vehicles were ever seen coming or going from the address. His interactions at the South Dunedin gym he was a member of were also polite, but reserved. One person who works there describes him as a loner with a lot of money, but no job. His membership was paid in full, though he placed it on hold when he travelled overseas last October. A foreigner's registration card shows he travelled to Pakistan, and he spent some time in the north of the country along the border with Afghanistan. In a post online, he describes Pakistanis as the most earnest, kind-hearted and hospitable people in the world. Dunedin's Mayor Dave Cull says the image of a loner is referenced by the fact police seem confident he has no accomplices.
So far as they can ascertain, the person that they have apprehended for the murders was acting on his own and was responsible for the shootings at both mosques in Christchurch.
Mr Cull says the city is struggling to come to terms with the accused gunman's 2-year-long presence there. During his time in Dunedin, he bought 4 A-class firearms online between December 2017 and March 2018. He practiced using them at a local firing range just outside of Milton, about 50 kilometres south of Dunedin. Members of the Bruce Rifle Club have been shaken by the association with Brenton Tarrant and are reeling from claims by a former soldier that the club harboured people with homicidal fantasies. When contacted today, Vice President Scott Williams laughed at that suggestion and said police have told him not to respond to the claims. He said people at the club feel betrayed and used by the accused, and says there were no signs of what would eventuate during the accused's year-long membership. Dave Cull says that's why there are legitimate questions about who the accused has associated with and how they're reacting to what has happened.
The concern, obviously, in the early stages was, well, what if there's a cell? What if he's got accomplices who are just waiting for people to reassemble and, crowds to form at these events, and then they'll have another go?
The Bruce Rifle Club has closed its doors, and Scott Williams says it could be for good. In Dunedin, for Checkpoint, Timothy Brown.